is definitely upon us. You can see the leaves beginning to fall, and the weather's changing a bit. I anticipate that we're going to have some hard freezes here in the future. You wonder what the birds do, what do the squirrels do, what do the rabbits and all the other little creatures do to get some food and things like that. One thing we know, according to our devotional, according to what we know, is that God does sustain them and take care of them. In areas even where there's snow on the ground, God sustains them and He takes care of them. That's one thing He does. During this time of the year, one of the other things that we take a look at is kind of our weed control. What kind of herbicide are we going to use? And so we have to decide, are we going to use a pre-emergent or are we just going to wait? And that decision is really important because, one, it determines how much time we're going to spend fighting this issue, but it also affects the groundwater if we make poor choices. And so we need to make good choices about that. Weeds are a reminder of the curse that came from the very beginning, and I long for a time when we just don't have that to deal with. In Romans 8:21 through 23, it says, "But the creature itself shall also be delivered from the bondage of corruption." And then he goes on in verse 22, it says, "The whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together till now." So not just the creature, not just us, but the whole creation groaneth for that time when the Lord will come back and He will make all things new. That's the time that we're looking forward to. When you think about the creation from the very beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth, He said it was good. And the relationship that Adam and Eve had in the garden was, there was harmony there. It was very beautiful. And then we see that Adam and Eve disobeyed God, and it drastically changed the relationship they had not only with God, but also with the creation itself. Now take a look in Genesis 3:17 through 19. It says, "Cursed is the ground because of you." So the earth is cursed because of the sin that was brought about by mankind. Now think about that for a little bit. Today, when people look at the world and they see evil, they either can't figure it out or they blame God. Here, God clearly says that the ground is cursed or the earth is cursed because of mankind. When God created it, it was good. But when man came about and he sinned, that's when the curse came in. And so this is what we understand as paradise being lost. Well, when the children came along, they kind of ratcheted this up a little bit more. We know that Cain kills his brother Abel, and in Genesis 4:11 through 12, we see that it says, "Now you're under a curse and driven from the ground which thou openest thy mouth to receive thy brother's blood." And so because the blood of Abel was poured out onto the ground, now that intensified even more. And so God did not deal lightly with that. Now, you need to understand that God took care of things. He didn't allow man to intervene at this time for justice sake. It was God that was taking care of that. And so this doesn't even get better. When we take a look at Genesis 4:24, Lamech says this, "If Cain is avenged 7 times, then let Lamech 70 times 7. And so man became very bold in his sin, and it's as if he was shaking his hand against God. Eusebius, one of the early church fathers, when he talked about this whole idea, he said that what man did is he exchanged the delight of heaven for the curse of earth, and so man's sin began to kind of increase, and when that sin increased, then floods and famines and plagues, he says thunderbolts is how he calls it, punishments began to increase drastically. And the intent was to, according to this historian, was to restrain the noxious illness of their souls. And so the early church fathers saw that what was going on in the earth as a direct result of the sin that was going on. Now, not only did Lamech continue in his sin, but those that followed him as well. And it got to the point to where God says, this is just too much. And so he brought about a man named Noah. Now, it's interesting when you see at Noah's birth, his father says this: he, referring to Noah, will comfort us in the labor and the painful toil of our hands caused by the ground the Lord has cursed. And so Noah is going to kind of help alleviate things a bit according to this. And we know that in Genesis 8:21, God says, never will he curse the ground because of man again. And so we see this happening. But interesting enough, while the curse might have been diminished right now, we still see that it's there. Will it stay this way? Absolutely not. Right before the Lord returns, in Matthew 24:37 through 39, we're going to see that this is going to ramp up even more. If there's a connection between man's sin and the curse, let me ask you, is there a considerable amount of sin that's occurring right now? Just take a look at how many babies are aborted in the womb. That's murdered in the womb. Do you think that God just turns a blind eye to that? If a brother kills his brother and God brings about that kind of curse, what do you think is going to happen when an entire nation turns a blind eye to the killing and the slaughtering of children? How about the other things that are going on in our world? Prostitution, immoral and illicit sexual relationships, drunkenness, all of these kinds of things that we know that are going on, plus the really deep, dark things that lurk behind the scenes. Do you think God is just going to turn a blind eye? Do you think that this world is going to be in travail? I know they talk a lot about climate change and things like that. Do you think that there is any connection between what this earth is doing, this groaning, and the amount of sin that's going on? As a child of God, as a Christian, I'm imploring you to be found in the Word of God, to be in prayer. We have a world that is in travail, a world that needs revival, enlightenment, and it's only going to be by the prayers of God's people that's going to bring that about. May you really consider this. May you think about this. Yes, God will take care of the birds. Yes, he will take care of the squirrels. And yes, he will take care of the other little varmints that are around here. But I want to tell you that God will take care of his crowning creation, and that is mankind. But mankind needs salvation. Mankind needs to be delivered, and we need to have a burden for that. May we make it through this time of winter and find an incredible spring where we can see an abundant harvest of souls for God. And that's going to happen if we be found in prayer. May God richly bless you. Thank you again for listening to these videos, and we'll see you tomorrow.